It's 5:30. Everybody, tone down.
Sergeant at Arms here. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of Planning and Zoning to order. Thank you all for attending tonight. This is quite a crowd compared to what we're used to seeing. We appreciate y'all coming. This is what public attendance is all about. We appreciate it. We're going to start with the roll call tonight.
Jim Giroux.
Here.
Daryl Whitworth.
Here.
Jeff Lawrence.
Here.
Cindy Scroggins.
Here.
Tom Musselman.
Here.
Holly Rickert.
Here.
Tim Dooley.
Here.
Steve Thomas.
Here.
Janice Menking.
Here. Thank you. We have a full, everyone is in attendance tonight. Thank y'all. We have 3 public hearings tonight, and we also have an item for public comments. So quite a few of you have signed up tonight for public comments. The first area of public comments is for public comments for anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. Then you also have time to speak in public comments for a specific item that we have that's a public hearing. So we will start with the first item that's public comments that you can speak on any item, any one of the items that's on the agenda or anything that's not on the agenda. So this is item number 4, public comments. And so you're limited to 3 minutes for that. I have all these public comments here. I'm not going to go through all the names, but if you did sign up to speak at the public comments on items that are not on the agenda, now would be your time to speak. Is there anyone that intended to speak during this portion of the agenda? Yes, sir.
I'd like to speak. And this is in regard to Mariposa.
Okay.
Is this the appropriate time for that?
You can speak now, but you can also speak during that actual public hearing.
I will do that.
Okay. All right.
Please come up to the podium and tell us your name.
Well, he said he's going to speak. Please come.
Oh,
Okay. Anyone else? Did you have anyone online or any?
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Then how we will handle the public hearings, we will open the public hearing. We will have the applicant make their presentation. After they make their presentation, then we will hear the public comments, and I will go through the list of these people who signed up for the public, for the comments. We would like you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Giroux will be timing those, and so we want everyone to get their chance to speak, and we will go through those after we get into the public hearings. After the public comments, then we will have staff here give us their comments, and then the commission will have their comments and vote on the issues. So we will go.
Madam Chair, I move that we go out of regular session into public hearing.
All right, I have a motion. This is for public hearing 5A, request Z2215 by Mark Pavlicek with North Cherry Builders, LLC, to consider the following. 1, request future land use classification of high-density residential for approximately 9.38 acres of land located at 211 Mariposa, and 2, request zoning of a PUD planned unit development for approximately 9.3 acres of land located at 211 Mariposa Drive. And so I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Pavlicek, are you here to make the presentation? There you are. All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we were here yesterday, so, we're going to not, quote unquote, beat a dead horse, but I'd definitely love to, for the benefit of the Planning and Zoning Commission, to, go through the presentation that we submitted, the PowerPoint, and then, try to address some of the points that were brought up yesterday. And then we'll see where we're at. Yeah, I think we can start there. So, again, introduce myself again. My name is Woody Victor, or some people refer to me as Big Bad Developer #1. I'm partnering with Mark Pavlicek here, who is a good friend of mine from New York. Mark is actually a resident here, and we had discussions about, I would say, about 2.5 years ago, around what the city needs, and we were 100% convinced, and we walked away with that the city needs multifamily, um, affordable housing, housing that's attainable to, your workforce, because we know without a good workforce, your economy is destined to fail. And and if you have a declining economy, that's when property values, et cetera, go down. So we were, and still are convicted to do a project on this site. We know we have to kind of we may have to make some modifications and come to the table a little bit better with the residents and our neighbors, because we are committed to community, building a community. We see the passion that residents from Heritage Hill and Sunday Farms, and we 100% empathize and feel some of their, most of their comments, very thoughtful. Most of them came from a loving and a very passionate place. I don't know about the catapult comment yesterday, but I think I think we understand that we got to come to the table and we got to present our case. That's, I think, a little more clearly, present our vision. We're all about improving communities. We've developed thousands of units in very dense populated areas, as well as ultra suburban areas that mimic very much Mariposa and Sunday Circle and Heritage Hill, minus the boots, cowboy boots. But we can maybe incorporate that. But I think we understand the concerns, density, building heights, sight lines, and we can put together a more thorough presentation and package to address all the concerns. We don't think any of the concerns are, insurmountable by any means. If you're, working with people who are, albeit passionate but logical and helping to, want to see their community thrive. We think 2 and 3 stories can coexist with single family 1 and 2 story buildings nearby. We think that's a viable option. We think that's definitely, many precedents out there that show that it's actually is a viable option. We also think that in terms of efficiencies, economies of scale, in terms of infrastructure, the significant public investment, private investment, as well as kind of leveraging some of the public funds or federal funds that the city of Mariposa may not have, or city of Fredericksburg, forgive me, may not have access to. We think we can leverage that and get some of those dollars in here to address some of the issues with drainage and the traffic circle. And these are things that, I think we can find a lot of common ground there. So I just want to make that point because we only had 3 minutes yesterday and the other side had 3 times about 100. But right now, I think, maybe we can go through some of the slides and we can fast forward as needed. And then we'll see. Is there going to be a question and answer, or are we just kind of presenting and then there's going to be a public hearing? I guess I'm just curious about the format here. Gotcha. Okay. So, this is a little background on us, who we are. I mean, the 4 bullets that you see up there really underscore what we're bringing to the table. At no point do you see, we're, folks who want to come in and be disruptive and destroy a thriving, loving community. We're here. We have significant track record and expertise from both financial as well as construction and development. We do have compassion for the community. I am a product of, working class family, first to go to college. If you look through my background, a lot of my work has been with nonprofits who are aspiring to do meaningful, purpose-driven developments and revitalize or enhance their community. And that's our focus, to enhance the community. When I visited Mark, with Mark about 1.5 years ago, and he said, look, this is kind of one of the best kept secrets in the country, this town called Fredericksburg. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And, went down Main Street and I saw everything that was going on between the vineyards and hospitality and restaurants. And I actually sat down with folks. This truly is one of the best kept secrets that I've been um, a visitor to on either business or personal. So we understand what the city, um, what the city and preserving its rich history means. So we are 100% sensitive to not doing anything that would disrupt that. As I mentioned, Mark is a resident here, and so we were proposing I know this is the the part that sticks with people is we're proposing a 249 unit planned use development on this site, and assuming we were able to, and that we translated as an R3, or we understood when we met with the city a while ago, we took away R3 as kind of a standard that we could aspire to and shoot for at this site. Um, we understand there's some pushback there, and we're willing to go back and revisit and look at some things. But that is our request. We filed an application for annexation of this site, assuming an R3 zoning with some minor modifications to the unit mix or the density. The next page. Again, it's 9.37 acre site. We hired nothing but Texas-based consultants between B&A Architects based out of San Antonio, our attorney, our development consultant, bond financing consultant. The construction firm is going to be out of Texas. So this is truly a Texas-based project, except for me. But I am a Cowboy fan, so that's whatever that's worth. So what we have is a conceptual site plan, as well as we've had some initial discussion. So what we propose in terms of look and feel, and we can obviously do a lot more in terms of showing kind of renderings and sight lines, and we do plan to do a very in-depth traffic study that is going to be performed by resident experts. People know a lot more about traffic than we do. We were proposing a garden style or courtyard style 3-story format across multiple buildings. We have 2 major buildings and then with 2 additional standalone buildings to the east. As you can see, our site is kind of like an L. Kind of looks like state of Louisiana, but that might be a sensitive subject in Texas. But in any event, we have an L-shaped structure and then or lot area. So part of it, the middle part would be kind of the 2 main courtyard buildings with potentially a pool, but all of that subject to final design and financing, etc. But at most, we were talking 3 stories, and that was a direct takeaway from kind of our discussions with R3 with the city. Kind of what does R3 mean? So, this we didn't, in our defense, we didn't just pull this out because we thought we could just let's shove as many departments in here as possible. We saw R3, and then we looked at R3, and that was kind of our process there. And so when we took the R3 zoning, as you can see the layout of our site, when we took the R3 zoning, we pretty much adhered to every line, every letter of the statute, every letter of the regulation, with the exception of some of the ratio formats, so that we could make this as affordable a project as possible. We don't plan to do 100% subsidized or any of that. We want to eventually figure out what the right happy medium is. We know around this area there's homes in the 400, 500 to $1 million. We know that's not necessarily the target market for the folks who are working in hospitality, working in the restaurants, who are your teachers, your nurses. We were looking at in the range between as low as $800, $900 a month to maybe $1,500 to $2,000, depending on how we can kind of arrange the format, the financing, as well as with direct input from the city. And with that, there are some trade-offs. The lower you tend to go, you probably need a few more units to make the numbers work. So we went in with this proposal, and again, we're happy to go a little to the left, a little to the right. But as you can see, this is the format. The parking requirements were based out of R3. The For every unit, there was kind of a ratio. I think it's a one. Eventually, ended up being almost a 2-to-1 ratio, a little bit less than 2-to-1 ratio. And if parking is a concern, the number of cars is a concern, we could scale that back. But that was a direct output of studying the R3 zoning. Next page, please. And essentially, that's kind of the high level concept. We know there's, some of this can be contingent. We were obviously asking for approval, but, or recommendation to approve, but, there could be obviously conditions, whether it's a site study, which we plan on doing anyway, traffic impact study, environmental. In New York, we're used to doing every type of study, shadow, environmental. So we were happy to do all of the above. But this is just a little bit of background of ourselves. I'm going to force Mark to come up and talk about himself a little bit because this is your slide.
How you doing? Mark Pavlicek. We met yesterday. So, yeah, I am one of the developers with Woody, and I've been doing this for probably 40 years of my life. I've built developments throughout the Northeast. We keep most of them. We manage all of them, and we just continue on. But we're a friend to the neighborhood. We've never hurt anybody. We've never been, told that we're not the right people. And it just seemed that, in the 5 years that I've been around Fredericksburg, that it's something that the town needs. We need housing, and I think we found a nice location for housing, and we just want to continue that. And hopefully, as Woody said, I'll repeat most of it, so I don't want to repeat everything. He did a great job, but we're here to work with you, and we understood a lot of the concerns that people had, and some of the concerns, we've had the same concerns, and this is early in the project. So we want to make sure that we take everyone's comments and build around the comments. So it makes it easier for us to know what everyone's concerns are, know about the parking, know about the traffic, know about the wildlife or the sunsets. We want to know that, and we found out about that yesterday. We've heard about it previously. But we just want to build on that more. And again, we're here to work with the homeowner associations next to us, which right now is Sunday Farms and Heritage, and we plan to meet with them as many times as they would like to, and give them. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's called Sunday Farms, but the road is Sunday Circle. So we plan to work with them as much as we can, and as much time as they would meet with us. We started slowly. We met with Heritage yesterday afternoon, which was great. Thank you again. It was we did just this quick conversation. It wasn't a long one, but we just see face before we came last night. I think Woody reached out to Sunday Circle, Sunday Farms, just to do the same thing, and we'll be glad to sit with everyone there too, and just give sit down with paper and just go over everything and list our needs. Our architect is here. He's also ready to sit down with us and with everybody and make the things that need to be made. Make sure the drainage doesn't get affected. Make sure the traffic and the traffic light at Mariposa and 290 is good. There's a lot of options, and we want to make the options work for everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. You were supposed to say big bad developer number 2. You did do that. We have another partner who's also tremendous construction experience. Okay. Thank you. So, in our third partner, there is a fellow by the name of Jimmy Delengos. He could not be here. I think he was bringing one of his, daughters to school. But he is a seasoned construction professional, has built every form of community-based, every type of mixed-use development possible, whether it's schools, hospitals, government buildings, religious institutions, light manufacturing, low-income housing, moderate income, mixed income, luxury housing. So we have a tremendous team here to deliver a quality product. And then, oh yes, last but not least, this Woody guy who's up here. I've been in real estate and finance. Worked for the last 25 years, primarily working with large corporations, but also working with nonprofits to help them achieve their goals. I've arranged public and private financing. I've worked with government firms who are advising clients, as well as been a principal on several deals. I've had corporate experience ranging from Viacom, Accenture, Old Mutual, but I chose to be a developer, and I take the good and the bad. But this was definitely this process is definitely one that it reminds you that you have to engage the community as much as possible so that they know where you're coming from, so they you can't take for granted that they know where your heart is or what your motivation is. So we definitely, as Mark said, we will be committed to meeting with whoever wants to meet with us, so you know exactly where we're coming from. As mentioned, I went to Brown University undergrad, Columbia for business school. First in my family to go to college, so I understand the struggles of being maybe potentially not able to afford certain type of housing. You want to work close to your job, but you have to make certain sacrifices. So I know about that. And that's why we are very passionate about this project to build quality, affordable housing that's attainable to your workforce. Because as we said, if you don't prioritize your workforce, your economy is destined. As much as prosperity as you guys are enjoying right now, that may take a hit if we don't prioritize the workforce. And I'm also on the board of several nonprofits in New York and in Florida. Thanks. And then B&A Architects, as I mentioned, is in our team is part of our team here. I'm not going to put Miguel on the spot, but yeah, maybe yeah, come on up.
Good evening. Miguel Saldana, B&A Architects, representing part of the design team for the project. We are based in San Antonio. The firm was started in 1980, so we have over 42 years of experience, primarily in multifamily. And I apologize I wasn't able to attend yesterday's meeting, but we certainly are used to some concerns from residents in areas where apartments might come. But I'm here to answer questions from our past experience on both the needs, the efficiencies of multifamily, what ways that we can try to mitigate some of these concerns that you all have to be able to make a successful project for both the city, the local residents, future workforce housing, and hopefully find a good compromise between everyone. Again, we started this concept really based on looking at what can be achieved on the site based on the R3 zoning. And I think we had landed at a point where the developers were happy with the proposal. We wanted to kind of reach out, begin that process of conversation with the city to see if this is a viable and the right approach. And obviously with resident feedback that we're happy to hear back, we hope to take that in and hopefully merge all these opinions and thoughts to make something that's right for the site. So just wanted to present myself, make myself available. Feel free to come up and speak to me after the meeting and try to answer some questions from the city as well. Thanks.
Thanks, Miguel. So yeah, I think that's concludes the presentation that we submitted. obviously there's a process here, and there is an action to be taken, and we obviously we'd love an approval off, right out the gate. But if there's an approval with certain conditions, we would 100% entertain all of the above. And so we thank you for your time, and I'll hand it over. Is this? I don't want to be out of order here. So
Yeah,
That is,
yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have, right now, we're gonna get public comments. You can ask them those questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and please be nice. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your presentation. All right, now I'm going to start going through these public comments. Once again, Mr. Giroux are you going to give them any kind of notification when they're close?
no.
No?
Everybody did a really good job last night of staying at 3 minutes. My alarm's going to go off at 3 minutes, and it's going to continue to run until you sit down. That's how we do it here. It's a little different than the city council, but everybody did a really great job of doing that last night. I appreciate you doing the same tonight, because we have quite a few folks.
And I will call one name and then tell you who will be next in line, so you'll be ready to come up so that can speed things up a little bit to them. All right. Thank you all again for all being here. Nancy Heiner, and then next will be Joe Kavanaugh.
Good evening. I'm Nancy Heiner. I'm president of the Heritage Hill Country Association, representing our residents tonight. We strongly oppose not only the annexation of 211 Mariposa, but especially the zoning request number Z2215, changing that property to a PUD HDR. Heritage Hill Country's petition of protest has been submitted, and of these that are allowed to sign that 200-foot radius, we had 92% signed with one resident at a time. Safety is our main reason. We all know Mariposa is a narrow, substandard road containing a 90-degree turn, and then its entrance and exit is onto a very dangerous US 290. It would be more dangerous with construction of a 3-story, 249-unit HDR, adding potentially 500 more vehicles daily to Mariposa. Affordable housing is necessary, and it's currently being constructed on a much safer road, Friendship Lane. In addition, the noise and disruption to the surrounding established single-family neighborhoods, which includes Heritage Hills, the city's only senior subdivision, would not be in keeping with our city's ordinances, Appendix B, zoning, enacting clause. Several of these, Section 3.700 PUD, Section 5.310, review and evaluation criteria, Section 5.471, conditions. These repeatedly mention detrimental to compatibility, to public health, safety, or welfare, detrimental to and not being materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity. Section 5.471, conditions, also mentions protection of adjacent property from excessive noise, vibration, dust, offensive view, or other undesirable conditions. The purpose of the zoning regulations is to avoid the creation or detrimental effect upon abutting properties. And Section 7.600, residential density, mentions residential development compatible with existing and anticipated uses of nearby property. Our properties would be devalued. The city's resources would be stretched. We understand the planning and zoning commissioners adhere to the comprehensive plan. We also understand the need for housing for our workforce. A PUD HDR is totally out of place on Mariposa Lane. Additional workers are needed. But keep in mind, Heritage Hill Country has 276 free volunteer laborers. Just because we have strange colored hair, we have lots of energy. We retired to Fredericksburg for its beauty, to escape traffic, noise, congestion, and dust. Please do not disrupt our hard-earned little piece of heaven that we call Fredericksburg. We ask that you not approve this request Z2215 to rezone to a PUD HDR. Thank you.
Mr. Kavanaugh, then I have Eric Schembach next.
I want to make sure
Is that
you
right?
sit down.
Hi, Joe Kavanaugh, 202 Sunday Circle. I submitted my protest with my 4-page form. If y'all can pull that up, I'll talk through a couple of things real quickly. First off, this development is on top of a hill, a slight hill, but a hill nonetheless, adjacent to not two, but three neighborhoods: Mariposa, Heritage Hill Country, and Frieden. Mariposa is to the east, Heritage Hill Country is to the north, and Frieden is to the west. My page 2 shows you a map of the area, and it shows the issues people are talking about with congestion and difficulties. And I shot a few photographs because a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you all know I spent my life doing exhibits, so I made one. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, these three neighborhoods are very different neighborhoods. Mariposa is a very rural neighborhood. Heritage Hill Country is a very nicely planned senior development. Frieden is an up-and-coming $1 million home development that is in the valley that will be having this structure, whatever it is, on their horizon forever, and desperately be a problem for those folks, we think. Also, I need to point out this. I don't live in any of those three subdivisions. I point on this map. I show a little green spot here next to Mariposa. That's my house. Look on page 2, and it'll show how my house, Stephanie and I, we live right at the juncture of Mariposa and Sunday Circle. And so basically, this proposal shows 3 ingress and egress routes from this subdivision. All 3 feed into Mariposa Drive, a 20-foot wide road. And I make the point here with an analogy. It doesn't matter how many different points you pour into a funnel. The volume stays the same regardless of how many. So pouring from 1 or from 3 is not going to matter. And right now, I think it's a fair analogy to say, if you consider us, I'm an Irish, so I say count this as a pint of beer. Our neighborhood altogether with 35 residences, and we're going to increase the volume by 700%. So you take 1 pint and add 7 more pints, you get a gallon. So it's like taking a pint of water going through a funnel and making it a gallon going through that funnel. That's the first point. The second point is that there's an issue with the sewage and drainage. Sewage, I show on the next page, page 4, is there's a sewage treatment lift station the city has, they put in for Heritage Hill Country, that is now tied in all the way to Frieden, and this will feed into that same thing. I've seen it stop, halt many times. The city's done a great job replacing the motor with a better pump, a better system, and even a really a nice system now where it actually calls them directly instead of me having to call them when it goes down. But I've seen raw sewage on Mariposa Lane already with the sewage we have going down there, and Lord knows what a mess we'll have if this goes off. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Joe, you did a lot better job last night sticking to 3 minutes. You did a better job last night sticking to 3 minutes.
Well, I'm sorry, but I had to make a better point about sewage on the street.
All right. Eric Schmalbach, and then Alan Johnson's next.
Good evening, Eric Schmalbach, 211 Sunday Circle. The primary reason I am protesting 2214 and 2215 is that it is against the comprehensive plan adopted by Fredericksburg. I'll start out section 4.6. Since preservation of Fredericksburg's agricultural heritage and economy is a strategic concern for Fredericksburg, first priority for these areas is to support continuation of these rural activities and the rural character that exists today. So moving on to section 5.5. Again, says pretty much the same thing, and it says we are going to preserve the rural character of the ETJ. Notice it does not say that it is any priority or a strategic concern to put in a high-density low-income, three-story affordable housing complex with insufficient infrastructure. In fact, it says the exact opposite. Next, I'm going to move to 4.24, which talks about whose job it is to show that it is consistent, and that's the applicant. So far, we haven't seen any of that. We've seen a PowerPoint. They have to address to actually get this to pass. How is what they're proposing consistent with the comprehensive plan? We haven't seen that. Next, I'm going to move to Fredericksburg Code of Ordinances, Appendix B 5.310. So you've got 5 questions that this committee has to answer before it can pass. You've got the must words, so you've got to hit all 5. Okay, so the first one is the property affected by the request adequate in size and shape? I have to answer no to that. I think you've got a significant drainage issue, which Joe Kavanaugh addressed. Number 2, does it exceed the capabilities of the infrastructure? Absolutely. You got a road problem. And I think you also have who's going to pay for it problem, because I don't think that they are. Next, you've got to establish that there's going to be no adverse effect on any property within 600 feet of the affected property. So this is what 200 feet of the proposal looks like. If you were to verify there was no adverse effect from all the people that live 600 feet, you'd need a bigger room. Next question. The request to change is an appropriate land use, which is an interesting choice of words and is consistent with the other elements of the plan. In other words, you can't just get a new map, stick it in there. The map has to actually match the words of the plan. In this case, it does not. The other question is it's appropriate. It's absolutely inappropriate. You're talking about putting a high-density apartment complex pretty much on top of a rural neighborhood, which many of those residents bought for the purposes of retirement. The reason that many of these people bought their properties is so they can enjoy the rural character as it exists today. And this is what the developer does not get. There's no way you can put this in and have coexistence. All of that rural character will be destroyed if this goes in. Okay? If the question, does it cause material injury to properties? I think the answer is yes. So I think you're 0 for 5 and at best 1 for 5, which in any case is an F. For that reason, I would ask you to deny this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Johnson and then Antoinette Kirk.
Well, good evening. I'm Alan Johnson. I live at Heritage Hill Country. I'm a board member there on the HOA board. I'm not within the 200-foot distance. 50, 60 years ago, I could have thrown a baseball onto the property we're talking about. These days, it'd probably go through my neighbor's front window. But I just want you to know we are close to that property and have great concerns for it. I know others are speaking to some of the visual characteristics and so forth, but I'll speak to some of the infrastructure issues which you touched on briefly. I'll try to just hit some high points. I may not even take the full 3 minutes because you did a good job of touching on some of the points. I do want to say thank you to staff for recommending that this development proposal be rejected. Saw that in the agenda documents. And so I want to say thank you. I think you're recognizing the needs and the wants of the community. There's an entirely inadequate infrastructure within the neighborhood and its surrounding area. The inability of the existing infrastructure to support another 500 to 1,000 souls, which up to 1/12 of Fredericksburg current population in an area little more than 1 block by 1 block. We don't know the full extent of the deficiencies. There's been no studies done. So we just simply don't know. But just to touch a few high points, roadways and traffic handling, as mentioned, it's insufficient width, no curbs and guttering, no sub-base preparation base, and paving that complies with city code. By my odometer and pedometer, it looks as if there'd be approximately 1.4 miles of roadway and potentially 2 bridges required in order to become compliant and exit the Mariposa onto 290 in a safe manner, one that can be signalized. TxDOT has already said there will never be a signal at the existing Mariposa 290 intersection. The city's water supply infrastructure is good, but do we want to add another 1,000 people to this demand when we're talking about stage 4 water conservation? And right now we're in good shape. Another month, who knows? The sanitary sewer system was mentioned just briefly, and the lift station there. And that was sized just recently to accommodate Frieden's max build out. It is not sized to accommodate more than double that quantity. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Antoinette Kirk, and then Martha Zires.
Hi, I'm Antoinette Kirk. I live at 260 Sunday Circle. I am not part of any of these developments. I'm sort of grandfathered out of that, but I'm right across from Joe, so I'm at the same place where Mariposa and Sunday Circle meet, and it's a real traffic problem. I want to address, everybody's made great points. I'm not going to cite, I don't know all the regulation numbers and everything, but in the presentation that the developers presented, one of their items was compassion for the community. I think we all have compassion that we do need affordable housing, but not in this location. There's such a concern for safety with Mariposa right now. You've got a 90-degree turn, which with just 35 houses and a few other pieces of property, you have to get over, you have to get off the road. People walking, their dogs are walking, have to get on the grass because there's no sidewalk or anything. You add that many people trying to get to work in the morning, 250 households and maybe there's 2 people per household. You'll never get to work. You'll have to leave an hour ahead just to get out onto 290. And putting a light at 290, my understanding is that 290 is regulated by the state. So getting a light might not be just a walk in the park there because you've already got a light at Heritage Hills. Also, I want to address communication and during construction. Just when they put in the extension of Mariposa to adapt Frieden, I got no communication about it, what was going to be going on. They broke a water line that I didn't even know was there from the old farm, and I was without water for 2 days and had to pay a plumbing bill, and nobody, said boo. It's too bad. I just worry about how the communication could be. And also, finally, the 3-story in the middle of these mostly single-story individual houses that people have established. It just would block views. You're looking down into people's yards and privacy. You're blocking nature. And we've got a lot of wildlife in that community. And it's part of what drew people there. So on just a compassion for the community and what fits, I just don't think that this development fits in the existing community. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Martha Zire and then Edwina Polifka.
Hi, good evening. My name is Martha Zire, and I'm a homeowner in Heritage Hill Country neighborhood. And I'm at the very southwest corner and not really probably the farthest away from this complex as you can be in Heritage Hill Country. I'm also a member of the 290 East Action Alliance, which is the community group concerned with safety on 290, instrumental in getting the light at 1376, and most recently the extended turn lane. So thank you for allowing us to comment on this project. We appreciate it. There's 2 very compelling reasons why we should reject this annexation. The first concerns the city's obligation to grow the city's limits responsibly and logically. This guiding language is contained in the comprehensive plan, which I know you all know. I studied the plan online, probably for the first time ever, and nowhere could I find evidence that the city has identified this area as a potential future growth area, and most importantly, as a high-density future growth area. This area is currently designated rural and adjacent to 2 single-family home developments. And of note, not only is Heritage Hill Country made up of single-family homes, it's an over 55 development with covenants, conditions, and restrictions in place that we must adhere to retain certain conditions which promote peace and quiet and security. To allow an apartment complex development in this area with R3 zoning is simply not in line with the city's comprehensive plan. The second compelling reason, which we've talked about before, is the use of Mariposa Drive as egress and ingress. And please take the time to go over to Mariposa Drive at either 9 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon or any other time you want to, and try to make a left turn onto 290. It's extremely difficult now and very dangerous. And adding a high volume of cars, making a left turn, it's irresponsible. So this project is simply the wrong project in the wrong place. Y'all seem like very nice people. Really, love to have a Hefeweizen with you sometime. But if it was a project of single-family homes, we'd be having a different conversation right now, but we're not. And so I ask that y'all reject the annexation and the zoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. Edwina, and next would be Bill Sad.
Okay. I'm pretty much going to be repeating what I said yesterday for those of you who weren't here, because this is a different committee. And I'm more speaking from a residential point of view. I live at 313 Chase Oaks Place. So I moved here from Los Angeles, California 3 years ago. It was time to retire after running my business for 38 years in the frenetic life of Los Angeles. 24/7 noise, traffic, and sirens. I fell in love with Fredericksburg and all it had to offer. It was the perfect place for me. Here I found a beautiful, peaceful community where I felt safe and secure. After looking at many homes, I found Heritage Hill Country Estates offering me the quietness I desired, surrounded by beautiful flora and fauna vistas in every direction. I discovered too the wonderful night sky, unpolluted by city lights. We all chose Heritage Hills Country for these same reasons, as a perfect retirement home in a quaint, lovely town. I am bewildered why you would ever consider planning this project in our community surrounded by private homes. Why would anyone consider building 3-story low-income apartments housing 500 to 750 persons, squeezed in the middle of an area encircled by private properties? These new occupants will most certainly be able to look down into our gardens, thereby taking away all privacy and views from my patio where I enjoy sitting outside. I might as well have stayed in Los Angeles if I wanted to remain living in a high-density residential neighborhood zoned for planned unit development. But I chose Chase Oaks Place for its peace and tranquility. There are so many other areas which are wide open and available for such a project. We see Friendship Lane, South Milan, etc., etc., etc. Our concerns are many. There is the safety factor of the huge increase of traffic trying to get onto 290 and the question of school buses, the added noise over my back fence and late night lighting, not to mention the added drain of over 750 people all needing to use water when we are already restricted usage. Finally, there is the other important factor that such a project will majorly devalue our property. I will need to know who to go to hold responsible for making up that difference and reimbursing me. I sincerely hope that you decide against going ahead with this project. It will bring a lot of anxiety and misery to all of us and destroy the joy we experience every day in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, and then I believe this is Kelly McDonald at 227 Sunday Circle. Who's next?
Good evening. My name is Bill Sad. I live in Heritage Hill Country within the 200-foot impact area of this development. I'm against the proposal. Everything about it is just too much. Some examples. Rural. The city's future land use plan calls this tract rural and then says area for very low residential use. Traffic, we've heard multiple times, 7 times the traffic plus people using the road, major safety and infrastructure issues. Drainage, being at the top of the hill, the impervious 6+ acres out of their 9 create a 9-acre footprint that will have an exacerbating impact on downhill properties. Some issues exist today. The density. This development will have a density of 27 units per acre, surrounded by single-family residential homes and grazing cattle. Heritage Hills is 5 units an acre. Sunday Circle about 1.5, Frieden less than 1. 27 units an acre versus 5, 1.5, or 1. 3 stories. The 3-story apartment buildings would dominate the skyline, including our night sky. Heritage Hill homes on Chase Oaks, like at Winnis, will probably suffer loss in value. In the developer's proposal and material that was included in the meeting minutes, the agenda for tonight, there are proposed R3 changes. The developer wants to modify the R3 minimum site area per unit. A minor or slight modification, to use their words. It's actually a 30% reduction. 30% is not minor. To squeeze in their 249 apartments following the R3 code, they'd need about an additional 3.5 acres. Open space. Of the 9-acre tract, about 70% would be covered by buildings and parking. The courtyard, the primary available outdoor space, would only be about 2/3 of 1 acre for 500+ people. That's not much space for families and children. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Mark Johnson is on deck.
Hi, I'm Kelly McDonald, and I know many of you, and y'all may know I don't speak, so I get a lot of anxiety talking in public, but I was not here last evening because I was out of the country, got in today, quick got cleaned up and had to be here. I am nothing personal, adamantly opposed to this project, and thank goodness so many of you spoke so eloquently about the reasons why, so I won't reiterate all of those. I second everything that was said this evening, especially the very succinct way of stating 27 units per acre as opposed to my little 1-story house on 227 Sunday Circle. We've lived here for almost 30 years in the same house. I've raised my children in this house. I've prayed every single time they leave the neighborhood, especially when they were learning to drive. Please, God, don't let them get T-boned. Please, God, don't let them get T-boned. It's a sincere concern. I'm passionate about this because it is not about providing housing that may be needed for our workforce. It's that this is the wrong place. This is not your community. You have found the wrong piece of property. And I don't mean that personally at all. It's not about you. It's not about the development. It's not about what you want to see done. It's that we work very hard to have peace and quiet where we are. I've been there, like I said, forever. Many of you I know, some of you I don't, but I just can't state enough that this is not a match for our community. It's not a match logistically. It's not a match socially. It's not a match aesthetically. It's wrong on every level, and it is a major safety concern, and it is a major issue with the roads. It's an issue with dark skies. It's an issue with my property that I don't intend to ever leave that house. This is where we want to live. This is where we want to stay. And something like this would make me want to leave. And I'm a local, and I don't want to have to be forced to leave my home. Thank you.
Mark Johnson, and then Jessica Swanson's next.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Johnson. I'm a resident of the Heritage Hill Country community here in Fredericksburg. I'd like to thank you for your time. And one of the advantages of not batting leadoff is others have gone before you. And I was a history grad student at one point, and I'm a retired lawyer, so I know all about footnotes. So I would just say, see Joe, see Mr. Schlossberg, see Alan Johnson, see Kelly. I mean, they talked about everything. This is really, really, really simple. And I'm going to make another baseball analogy, which is you can't score a run if you can't get to first base. Getting people in and out of your community, to me, is getting to first base. Mariposa doesn't work. Did not work for Arthur Dance in 2005 when he wanted to do the peach orchard. Didn't work for Frieden in 2017 when they wanted to make it a primary entrance. Doesn't work today. It does not work. The zoning, we've been all over that. I had lots of notes. I'm going to skip because you've heard it. And it doesn't work. The zoning, it's incompatible every which way. And it also, everything it does to Heritage Hills, you've heard that. So I'll skip that. But I'm going to make one more, since I saved myself some time with all those footnotes. I'm going to make one more little analogy here. Most of you of an age, you probably saw, if you don't clearly remember, the movie Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. Now, I called up a clip today. Denzel looks a whole lot younger. But what he said is absolutely right. He said, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Well, I listened to the developer try to explain their project. Get a 6-year-old to understand this. It's basically give me the keys to the car and trust me, because they haven't done their homework. They haven't done the necessary work to get this project on the agenda. And I appreciate the city staff for recognizing this, for recommending you reject it. And I guess I'd really just like to thank you for serving on this board. I know it's it's a lot of work for you, with probably zero or very little pay. And I think I got close.
They don't even buy us.
I mean, I served on our HOA board of directors, so I understand volunteerism, and I appreciate it. And I thank you for that. And I would ask you to follow the advice of the city planning folks and reject these proposals. Because saying the developers, who again seem like nice people, and I will agree with a lot of people, we need affordable housing in Fredericksburg, but it doesn't work here. So it doesn't work. That was pretty good. Thanks.
Thank you. Jessica Swanson, and then Jim Haverwhite. I'm sorry, 903 Chase Oaks Place. I'm sorry, I couldn't read you. Okay. Close enough?
Hi, my name is Jessica Swanson. I'm from 245 Sunday Circle. I want to start by saying I agree with others. I'm not saying we don't need affordable housing in the city. It's It's just the wrong location, as others have said. The proposed location does not even provide sidewalks or bike paths that connect to the city center. Thus, I'm speaking in firm opposition to the proposed change in future land classification and rezoning of the land at 211 Mariposa Drive. Honestly, I feel this proposal shows a lack of respect for our area of Fredericksburg. The fact that this has been in the work for months and they just in the past few days have decided to reach out to residents is disrespectful. The fact that you're just realizing after the meeting last night that endangering our children and families with extra traffic, ruining our landscape, adding noise and light pollution, and displacing our wildlife would be concerns feels even more disrespectful. Despite citing compassion, you're coming in from New York, you do not seem to care about how it will change our rule setting and designation of our community. Light, noise, traffic, lack of safety, high density units may all be the norm in New York, but it's not what Fredericksburg as a city desires in this location, according to the comprehensive development plan and future land use designation. It's certainly not what the current residents want. I'm opposed as I'm worried about the traffic, safety, and environmental impact as others have stated. What's pertinent to tonight, though, is the change in land designation and rezoning. Building of high-density residential in this area is not consistent with the vision of the city, as many others have said. It violates the city's role designation on future development plan. Comprehensive development plan also repeatedly mentions a focus on the entering corridors, with the Southeast 290 entry corridor deemed most important. In order to safely accommodate the increase in traffic, we would have to put a stoplight there. It would be right at the intersection of Mariposa and 290. It would be crossing over the bridge. It would create an eyesore, and it is not welcoming and consistent with creating character in the entry corridor. Three-story complex in this location is not consistent with surrounding use either, as this plot of land is surrounded by rural and low-density residential use. It's going to add light pollution, which, as others have said, would violate the dark sky community. I do not think that a three-story apartment in this area is something that we can agree on for all the reasons listed by myself and others. I suggest that the builder look at the land between 1631 and Highway 16. This particular area was deemed a residential focus area in the comprehensive development plan, and according to that plan, would offer the opportunity to create a new residential neighborhood relatively close to the central part of Fredericksburg. Or perhaps they could use the 4+ acre property that was bought by Mark in August of 2020. Is this the purchase that made him a resident? Seems coincidental timing. That same month he bought this property is when he incorporated North Cherry Builders with the property as the business address. While the developer may not have or may have a track record, I don't see that this company, North Cherry Builders, has previously completed any other projects. Regardless of where they put it, there are better locations to manage traffic and put the workforce closer to the city center.
Thank you. Jim? And then Scott Pendlew.
My name is Jim Hambright, and I have lived in both Mariposa and Heritage Hills. Tonight, I want to talk about what I think is the main thing that has happened here. We have all these people here today that are fearful, they're angry, and they don't have a clue what really is going on. And I know that if people understand what's going on and have been told what's going on, things usually go a whole lot better. We, as three separate communities, have not heard one word from this development, except for yesterday, 2 hours or 3 hours before the meeting, they met with Heritage Hills, and they had called Carolyn 3 days before. If they would have met with us a year ago, because in December you bought the property and knew what you were going to do, and you were working with the city at this time to carry out this project, why were we not part of that planning for the future that they say that they are so concerned about? To us, it seems like we were just left in the dark, and the less we knew, the easier it would be for them to move in and build this project. Is that true? I don't know. But I do know that we had no contact with these people. Frieden, when he started his project, came to us, and he took some tongue lashings. It was hard, but he stuck to it, and we got through it, and there wasn't this. There wasn't all these angry people. The other thing that I've learned in my life is always listen for the little words. Tweaking is a horrible word
when it multiplies everything by 30%. We don't understand that because we were never explained that. If you would have come to us a year ago when you bought the property, this wouldn't be here tonight. In closing, I have two things to say. If they have never come and talked to us before now, what assurance do we have that they will even talk to us again? We don't know. If it never happened, it will probably never happen again. Lastly, I'm just a nurse that moved to Fredericksburg, Texas, because, well, my wife told me probably be the best answer. But we moved here for the quietness and the goodness of this community. That's what everybody is mad about. It's easy for you to say a 3-story, high density won't hurt. We don't believe it. And it's killing us. You have poor timing in this, in telling us what's going on. Thank you.
I have one more, Scott Henley. Am I saying it? Okay, you're all right. That's all I've got then. All right, thank y'all all for your comments. All right, if there's none others,
I
then
move we exit public. Yes,
no, we're
no,
gonna
we do it
we're gonna-
item by item.
We do them
we're
item
gonna
by
item by item.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Madam Chairman, I move that we exit public hearing and go back into regular session.
Second.
Have a motion by Polly, second by any discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed? All right, then let's go to action item number 6A, discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 2215 by Mark Pavlicek with North Cherry Builders to consider the following: the request future land use classification and the request zoning of a PUD. So Garrett, would you like to give us your comments?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, board members. So I did want to start by a point of clarification. So last night's discussion at City Council, which was a public hearing relating to the annexation request, it was just a public hearing to take public comment. So now we're here before the board tonight to discuss the land use and zoning for the proposed annexation of the property. Your recommendation will then be taken to City Council at the September 19th meeting, when the land use, zoning, and annexation will be considered and acted upon. So just wanted to start with that. Really just wanted to touch on a few high points. The applicant has done a really good job of presenting their project, and basically the commenters have touched on a lot of the details. There's also a lot of information in your packet. But for the sake of time, I just wanted to touch on these points. It is a 9.387 acre tract located at 211 Mariposa Drive. Currently lies in the ETJ and is on the south side of Heritage Hill Country subdivision. The city's land use plan for this area does designate the area as rural, which is defined as an area for very low residential use, very low density residential use. The developer, as presented, has requested voluntary annexation and is proposing a multifamily development under a PUD zoning that is based on the R3 zoning district. I did provide a summary sheet, I believe on page 35 of your packet, that details the proposed changes to the R3 zoning that was provided by the applicant. That is based on what they feel is a market need. So they're saying that is needed to meet the market demands, which requires the increased densities. I also wanted to note that Vince Michelle, the Attainable Housing Coordinator, is here tonight to answer any questions you might have relating to the housing needs. Access to the proposed development would be taken via 2 driveways off of Mariposa Drive. Mariposa Drive is shown as a future collector roadway on the city's thoroughfare plan, but there are some pretty major issues at the intersection of Mariposa and 290 that would need to be addressed. Another thing I wanted to mention is currently there is a emergency access drive proposed off of Sunday Circle. That is a private drive, so the neighborhood association would need to approve that request.
My understanding is that may be going away under the current plan. So I did want to make that point of clarification. Public notices were sent out relating to this request, both on the annexation side of things and the zoning. And I think we've provided y'all with all the information. We did receive a few letters after the posting of the agenda, so I believe Shelby handed those out. But the main thing there is based on the amount of protests we received, that exceeds the 20% threshold of land area within the 200-foot buffer. So any action or any approval by the city council would require a supermajority vote of the city council. So getting to the actual staff recommendation, ultimately staff does see the need for attainable housing within the city. But basically due to the traffic concerns that have been presented tonight, the proposed high density development in an area that's called for future low density and existing adjacent developments are low density. And then the neighborhood association objections, staff is recommending denial of the request as currently presented. So I do know there's going to be a lot of discussion and questions. The applicant has indicated they're happy to answer any questions. Staff is available to answer any questions you might have for us.
I don't ever recall the staff recommendation having an applause. And I've been doing this for 25 years. So the question I had was, it showed, is Mariposa a county road? Is that inside the city limits or is that in the ETJ? What is Mariposa?
It is inside the city limits.
It is
so on the thoroughfare plan, page 17, does call, as I mentioned, it calls for Mariposa to be a thoroughfare, a collector roadway that would extend between 290 and 87. But in this instance, that would be developer driven. So I know it was discussed that Frieden actually had to deal with that. They worked with the landowner to the south. So the alignment of Mariposa would actually veer off that line that's shown on the map and go to the south. But there are no plans to improve it. We've had some initial discussions with TxDOT about the intersection. That's the big concern. But as I mentioned, there's no immediate plans for any improvements.
Explain that to us one more time. So the dotted line would be the new Mariposa?
No, that's the old one.
That's the old.
So the dashed line that goes straight to the west or to the left, that would actually veer south around the Frieden development. Again, they worked with the adjacent property owner to the south, the Hodges family, and they have an agreement where if the Hodges ever were to develop, they would have to account for Mariposa to be extended through their property.
If you scroll to page 15, back up to right there and then blow that one up. Bring that one up. So now Mariposa curves to the south. So
A little to the left, Shelby.
Yeah, to the left.
So right there, that
Mariposa
southeast
enters
corner.
Frieden and now curves down to the south and dead ends, and then the next development is going to have to pick that
Oh,
up.
I remember that.
Yes, ma'am.
Remember when we approved Frieden stuff? That's when it changed.
Okay. So it would actually, this would have to have gone right through there.
Yes, you can actually see the narrow strip that was dedicated right away for Mariposa. That was done a long time ago. So as part of the Frieden development, they had to address that. Again, they worked with the property owner to the south so that Mariposa would be on that tract.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
I have a few. Would you open up, Cindy, open up your drawer? No,
Open up your drawer, Cindy.
Open up your drawer, Cindy.
Look in the back. Is there a box in there?
A soapbox? Here,
Please
he has
hand
to
that
get
to
on
me.
his soapbox.
That's
Is
my
it
box.
only?
That's my box.
Is that your soapbox? There's something
Yes,
in
it
all
is.
of these.
I put that.
I have a few comments.
Turn it around so they can see.
Oh, they don't? Oh, okay. I'm getting on my soapbox. Okay. A couple of, we've made some references to future land use maps. And maybe this is the time that I can talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission and also to the Assistant City Manager and soon to be ex-City Attorney about rural land development. At one time, when I was annexed into the city limits in 1999, all the land around my house on Friendship Lane was classified rural. And I'm wondering now why it's still not rural. And the answer to that is that over time, things change. Land use changes. I don't know that we can expect land that we bought 50 years ago to remain the way it was when we bought it 50 years ago. To my friends at Heritage Hill Country, I feel your pain because I'm feeling it the same. But I do have some questions about this development. One of them is Mariposa currently in the city limits, and the answer to that question is yes, it is, but it's an unimproved county road. And so one big question before us is what kind of traffic is going to go on Mariposa, and is it able to withstand that traffic? Who's responsible for upgrading Mariposa? We have always, as a city, had concerns about having two entrances from developments, and have Mariposa exiting on 290 does not have a second entrance. So I see that as an issue. One thing, when I looked at the map, I didn't see any detention on the map. So every development that we've had has had detention as part of it. So I guess that would come up in site plan.
Yeah, if I can respond to that question in particular. I mean, what we have presented in front of us truly is a very conceptual plan.
Right.
And has been discussed. Traffic impact analysis is still going to be needed for any sort of approval.
Right.
Detention, utilities. So, without going into the engineering of that, all we could really account for is, allotting some space. It might end up being kind of that interior corner. At this point, we don't have that information to really be able to assess it. And so,
except no, Joe.
You've had your 3 minutes.
That's right. So some of the concerns that I have are that the abutting PUDs, Heritage Hill Country and Frieden, while they are planned use developments, they are single family planned use developments. It seems inappropriate to me to place a higher density zoning classification adjacent to our lowest density classification. In my experience in city government, we have always in our zoning, we've always attempted to do some kind of to have some kind of a step from a lower density zoning to a higher density zoning with some transition zone. Thank you very much. I'm concerned about the amount of traffic. Also, I agree that we need affordable housing, but I think I understand. I'm an ex-teacher, so a new teacher coming to Fredericksburg ISD makes $48,000 a year. which is if they can spend 1/3 of their take-home pay, well, not take-home pay, their gross pay on housing, that's $1,200 a month. So are they going to be able to? Are there going to be $1,200 a month apartments? Because every complex that has been approved by the city council, of which I was a member of, and the Planning and Zoning Commission over the last 3 years, none of them have said we're going to be able to provide housing in the under $1,000 range. Most of them have been $1.75 to $2 a square foot, something like that. These are issues. I understand I understand the issue with three stories. It's called if you can't go out, you can go up. So my concerns are the lack of transition and 3 stories at this area. And I'm sorry that to my friends at Heritage Hill Country, the cows eventually the cows are not going to be there. At least you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe you won't have 3-story buildings.
You don't want to be out of order, but I just wanted to provide some clarity on the plan was definitely to have units sub $1,000 a month to address the very point you made up about teachers.
Thank you. Okay.
I just want to follow Robert's rules here, but no, the units we do plan on being absolutely market size units for 1 bedroom. I think in the 700-800.
You want to speak to 800 minimum on 1 bedroom?
Excuse me?
You want to speak to the HCA? Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think our apartment size are definitely within market. We're following guidelines with TDHCA and others who have minimums on these types of apartments. So in order for us to, rent them at the $800 amount, they can't be, boxes, 400 square foot apartments. There's minimum sizes at the 1s, 2s, and 3s levels, and we can definitely share that with you.
Okay, are you also anticipating coming to the city for any kind of subsidy help?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ollie, you had some comments?
If I just want to piggyback on that point, we're not asking for any any city money to do this stuff. We actually are committed to putting public and private money, not city money, into the infrastructure. We know that the resources are constrained and tapped, and things like drainage and traffic and things of that nature. We understand the high density and your point about stepping up to maybe some intermediate level. We are absolutely open to all of the above, and they may not be a resounding yes, obviously tomorrow or the 19th, but we want to make sure we get it right. So we don't necessarily, we would. I could probably speak for Mark and say, look, we don't need a city council vote on the 19th. We want to get this right. We want to talk to everybody. We want to talk to Jim. We want to talk to all the residents here to make sure we get this thing right. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so I would like to make a comment for all of you who showed up tonight. This is the legal process that we go through for these projects, and we respect the legal process that we go through, and I want to express my appreciation for all of you being so committed to come here and give us your opinions on this project. You wouldn't believe how many times we don't hear from somebody until the project got much further along in the process, and then people started showing up. So I appreciate you coming this early. Annexation, land use decisions, zoning. This is the early part of approval of projects of this type. So respectfully, if you feel like you didn't know enough before now, you actually know about what we get to know when we come in here for projects like this. They bubble and percolate through city staff for quite a while before they finally come before our board for any type of advice and consent decision. So I just wanted to let you know that this is not, you're not having an exceptional situation. This is just part of the legal process in Texas. That's how things flow through, when the public notice is given, when it comes before the boards, and then before city council. So don't feel like that you were singled out. This is just how the process works. My advice to developers of any stripe who happen to be in the room or listen to this afterwards, it definitely behooves you as you go to acquire a piece of property to look at what is around it, find out much more about your surrounding land uses and your surrounding neighbors, and start talking to them very, very early in the process before you commit too many funds to your project. We see a lot of this that comes before us. Sometimes it's even further along than this and they haven't spoken to their neighbors. And it's just it's a shame on you kind of thing if you don't get in front of your neighbors and talk with them very early about what you're thinking about and getting their input on it before you've expended considerable resources on your development. So my comment on this particular project, and I lead a nonprofit trying to develop affordable housing for ownership in our community, and we are struggling mightily just with that. And that is the minority problem compared to our overall housing problem. Our biggest housing problem is rental. It is by far swamping the home ownership problem that we have as a drop in the bucket compared to our rental problem. We are woefully inadequate on sufficient rental properties to support the workforce that we need in our community. And we are short approximately 2,500 workers per day in our community. We export some, but we import a whole lot more. We import approximately 2,500 people every single day just to support our needs right now. That doesn't consider the growth in the future. I agree that if we don't do something about this soon, our growth will just slow and slow and slow, and it will slow because of a lack of workforce. Having said that, we need to put our high-density residential developments in appropriate locations. Places where either the existing infrastructure is more than adequate to support it, or we have a city plan already in the works to bring the infrastructure in short order to that location. But projects where the development is going to get out well ahead of our abilities to support the infrastructure are not smart growth options for our city. And we need to think about, as these developments are proposed, not just what is the upfront cost of the development, but what is the 10, 20, 30-year impact on our taxpayers and our utility ratepayers of such developments. And there needs to be a return on investment back to the taxpayer and back to the ratepayer of all growth projects, regardless of type, that our city chooses to pursue. We need smart growth. We need good return on investment growth for our taxpayers and our ratepayers. And so for me personally, this project does not fit those boundaries. It is not in a great location traffic-wise. It's not in a great location in terms of adjacency to adjacent uses. And the infrastructure is just not going to be sufficient in short enough time frame. And that's going to be a burden that falls back on the taxpayers and the ratepayers. So I'm not very supportive of this part. However, I will say to the developer, don't feel totally discouraged by what happens in this situation. I just think you pick a property that's just not suitable for what you're trying to do. There are other properties, there are other locations around our area that would be much more suitable for a high density development, and we would be very happy to entertain those proposals because we are aware we do need more high density multifamily housing in our community. So we're going to be tackling that as part of our new comprehensive plan. But in the meantime, don't be discouraged, don't be afraid to look at other parcels and bring projects back to us, because we're not saying no to the concept. We're just saying, I'm not saying no to the concept. I'm just saying no to this particular project in this particular.
Anyone else have comments?
Y'all don't have to clap after my comment because I usually don't say things that are clap worthy, but the biggest overall, I go into both those communities on a regular basis doing my regular job. And the biggest, there's no way to fix Mariposa as it currently lays to handle any more traffic than it already has. And that is my only sole comment. And as Polly says, I'm also an employer in town, and we're constantly scrambling for workers. And they're coming from, I'm reimbursing them right now to drive in from Junction, Texas. So don't give up on the project. This is just a poor location.
All right,
motion?
I'm ready for motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I will make the motion. First of all, I will put a little humor in there for all of you that have been here for a while and understand what goes on across the street at the courthouse. I will pull a Corky Thompson, if anybody knows what that is. I have agreed with everything that's been said tonight, without question. And therefore, my motion is to deny the project as presented. If the developer is interested in any kind of modification and a little bit more homework where the neighborhood is a little bit more satisfied, I don't disagree at all. That traffic is the single most important part of this project. And that's why it is going to be denied.
Second.
So you're not denying the project, you're denying the future land use classification in the PUD.
Yes.
That's what you're.
That is
motion.
correct.
That's the motion.
The motion is to deny Z-2215 request as presented.
All right. So that was a motion by Tim. Who's the second?
Tom.
Y'all are asking for a roll call vote?
Yes.
All right. We'll take a roll call vote, please.
Cindy Scroggins.
Either yes to deny or no.
Yes to deny.
Jeff Lawrence.
Yes to deny.
Daryl Whitworth.
Yes to deny.
Jim Giroux.
Yes to deny.
Tom Musselman.
Yes to deny.
Holly Rickard.
Yes to deny.
Tim Dooley.
Yes to deny.
Steve Thomas.
Yes to deny.
Janice Menking.
Yes to deny. All right. Motion carries. That will go to city council on the, or not? No, does that go to city council?
I will reach out to the developer and see what they want to do.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I would recommend that we take a 5-minute break,
I was
please.
going to suggest that also. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all, everybody, for coming, and thank you for the project.
Maybe needed.
Oh, thank you.
I've been there, but it's tough. Section alarm for 5 minutes and put it on.
Yeah, they're all there. Well, I know they're all being right up. They were around. For the next day. They're all cute, broke. They leave cute down my hand. Look at all that. Down the screen right there. Oh, yeah. Don't stand behind. Yeah. Made A list again. This many things in this place. As soon as I got that, I said, "Here, use that as a death sentence for people." Texas has been allowing stuff. I guarantee you, we're going to have people die. 290 each. My life. People don't pay any attention. They have common sense. City County Council wants to do Hey, Joe. How are you? Good to see you. Man, I haven't seen you in a long time. Same to you. I seem to have a beard. I like it. Yeah. It comes and goes, Joe. Every time it comes back, but it's for great. So when you have the Texas Census Central, I was the county census chair in Fredericksburg County. Oh, we had a beard break about that. I think it was 36. Yeah, yeah. And I had to be the role model. No, I couldn't because I was cheering. I couldn't even enter. I was the model. Oh. I haven't shaved my beard since 84. Actually, I haven't shaved since 84. Now, but regarding the question that right in your front yard, right? You know, live right at the jog in the bottom. Pension. And he saw that plan. It took about 3 minutes to scale it. Measured what the hardscape was. He said 1 inch of rain of all the hardscape in that plan is going to give you 160,000 gallons of water. And I said that's conservative. Not counting angles of roof water, it's just flat 160,000 gallons. I saw you shoot down the street yesterday. I said she's doing her homework. You go for it. I was, but I'm telling you, yeah, I passed Joe on his Scotty Marvel. It's bigger than actually, because we used to across the street on that place where it is, they cut me in heels. They were both the sport. Because my serious lawnmower died this year. They said, we'll just fix that. Much up for the lawn. I said, it's a good lawn. It's pretty fancy. I mean, seriously.
Call this sucker back to order, madam.
All right, 5 minutes is up.
Back to business.
Let's get started, guys. Ding dong, ding dong.
Everybody get in their seat. We're going to start again.
Sergeant at Arms is me. I'm gonna have to get you a bell.
Shelby needs to turn the volume up on this. Joe, stop talking and go away.
All right, guys. Where's the rest of our crew? Let's see. Where's Mr. Musselman?
He's
You have to
doing his
pay for it.
laundry.
You have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. The machines-
With the soap.
Yeah.
Talking to Joe.
Where is Tom?
Well, Polly needed it for a little while. That's all
Should we start without Tom?
But you did. It's okay.
It's all right. It's okay.
There he is.
That's all right.
Thank you very
Here we
much
go.
for getting. All right, let's go to action. To public hearing number 5B, request Z 2217 by Kirk Eyring with Smitty's Texas LLC to consider a conditional use permit per section 3.210 to allow a drive-through associated with a car wash for property located at 513 South Adams Street. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing. A motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Lawrence. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Mr. Eyring, am I saying that right? Oh, am I pronouncing your name right?
My name is actually Cody Carter.
Okay. All right.
But you are pronouncing his name right.
Okay, great.
As I said, my name is Cody Carter. I'm the project manager for the construction division of Smitty's, Texas. Mr. Iron sends his regrets that he could not make it tonight. I'm here in his stead. But just a little background. Smitty's, Texas is a privately held company. We are headquartered here in Texas. We have 20 sites nationwide as of right now, and we're continually rapidly growing. We have actually broke ground in one in Kerrville, so we just were approved for there about 60 days ago. So we are still just broke ground for there, and we're building one there, two there actually, and then one in San Antonio. So if everything all works right, we're in the process of hopefully we can have 5 to 6 sites within the Hill Country area of Texas.
Okay. Would you like to tell us something about the project?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's a state-of-the-art new single tunnel car wash. It's fully automated, and as it's it's 2-story. You'll have a loft in there, and it's we'll also have self-service vacuum base at the option of the customer after they come through the car wash. There'll be an option that they can use the fruit vacuum banks for that as well. But we're here to answer any other questions or any concerns, address any concerns that you may have in regards to the project. And I have Greg White, which will be our superintendent for the project. They'll be running the day-to-day operation. And I also have Scott Penley from Simple Wash Solutions. His company would be the one installing all of the aspects of the car wash equipment, everything like that. So if you have any technical questions or any as far as use questions for the equipment, I could defer that to Scott.
All right. We'll see if we have any public comments, and then I'm sure the gentlemen will have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to make any comments about this application?
Hello.
All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Jim, a second by Tom. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 6B, discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 2217. Garrett, do you have any comments on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Application?
So just to clarify, the applicant is requesting site plan approval and a CUP for the drive-through use of the car wash. It's a 0.89 acre tract located at 513 South Adams. It fronts on both South Adams and East Walsh, and there's an additional little flag. You can see it on the site plan over to East Live Oak Street. That area will just be used for landscaping and a couple of parking, or I believe that's actually the dumpster enclosure. I don't even know, but there's no proposed tie over to East Live Oak Street. The tract is currently zoned C2. It has M1 zoning to the north, C1 zoning to the east, and C2 zoning to the south and west. As proposed, the site would take access off South Adams, which would require TxDOT approval, which the applicant is working with TxDOT on, as well as East Wall Street. Sidewalks are proposed along both frontages as part of this development. Public notices were sent out. We received one for and one in opposition. Those are both included in your packets. So as presented, the site plan and conditional use permit relating to the drive-through use appear to meet all applicable development regulations. So staff recommends approval with conditions that are noted on page 46 of your packet in the staff write-up. I'm happy to read those off if you need me to, but they're pretty standard conditions.
All right. Thank you, Eric. Anybody have any questions or comments?
What's the feasibility of TxDOT giving that permission? That's not an access on that property.
I believe there is an old driveway there. I don't know. Can you speak to that? Have there been any further discussions with TxDOT?
I know our civil engineering firm has been in full discussions with them as far as going through their needs, addressing their needs and concerns as far as all that. But I have not, as of today, I have not.
If you can scroll back to page 47, you can actually see the old driveway there. So that the state must provide reasonable access to a site. And as proposed, I don't see them objecting to this. I can't guarantee anything, but that is a condition of the approval. It's recommended.
If by some chance TxDOT does not approve that, is it feasible to run all off of Walsh in and out?
I don't see why it couldn't loop around. We would have to work with fire marshal, make sure he's okay with it. But based on the proposed use, I don't see that being an issue. Oh.
Hi, my name is Scott Finley. I'm with Simple Solutions. We're the ones installing all the car wash equipment for Smitty's throughout the nation, actually. I'm at 2925 114th Street, Grand Prairie, Texas. First, let me just take a minute. This is actually part of
Okay, so I don't know if y'all could see that the flag portion, there are two parking spaces there. The actual dumpster is kind of on the, I guess it would be the northeast side of the building.
Correct. Now, I just joined Simple Solutions in June. I've developed over 100 car washes throughout the nation from another development company. If you remove this entrance, I'm sorry, State Highway, you remove that, we will not be able to function. The site will not function due to the size of it.
So is that proposed as a one-way drive? So that would be ingress only?
Correct.
Okay, so I think because it's limited access, the state will approve it.
Come through the vacate this way, through the tunnel, exit into the back if they chose to do so, back out this side.
Okay, thank you.
So if we try and do it all with either curbing or striping, and there will be 2 to 3 attendants on site, and that is their job, is to make sure traffic flows properly.
So with it being one way, I think the important part of that, and the state will bring it up, is signage, so people know, they're, and it looks like there's really no way for them to go out anyways. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, we are under construction in Lufkin. We're about 80% done. We're in Corsicana, Marshall, Tyler. Started pushing dirt in Kerrville, and really excited from Fredericksburg.
So, Gary, I have a question. If the entrance off of Adams Street, that's a state issue, so that doesn't really affect what we do tonight.
Except that it's a requirement. It's a It's a requirement.
Right, it's
Right.
typically based off TxDOT with the speed limit of
Right.
this.
But my question here is that we can vote to approve this, and if TxDOT throws a monkey wrench in it, then they'll have to go back to TxDOT.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So then the other question, and this would kind of fall under, I know you probably answer this. So this doesn't really fall under corridor design, does it?
It does, and it was reviewed for entry corridor standards. And the initial site plan, there were some issues, and so they addressed those issues and modified the site plan. I will say the sketches don't quite match the site plan that you see, but the site plan itself is compliant.
Is the architectural style compatible with our corridor?
It meets the standards as far as breaking up the facade and materials used and variation. It's not monotonous and not reflective.
Do all of them look like this?
Yes.
Every single
One
one?
of them, so far in the state of Texas, yes. And the one, and I can show you pictures on my phone, the one that left in.
We've had some minor changes here and there from different municipalities, but for the most part, yes, sir, they do look all the same.
Oh, Jim wants it different.
Just me talking, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like the way it looks, period. I just don't. It doesn't fit with the community, okay? And no, it doesn't have any orange in it. I'll tell you what that's all about.
Do you know the one saving grace is that from the primary corridor, it's not very visible. It's only visible from Wall Street, basically.
I understand. And
across some trails.
it is in an area where it's really inconsequential. But that is a personal thing, okay? So you know.
Yes, sir.
But I would be remiss with this group of people on this board if I didn't bring that up.
And how high is the tower? And then also at the side, I'm looking at page 53 in the packet.
Yes, sir. As far as on page, if you look on page 70 of your packet, the height is 26, which will be 26 feet.
26?
26 feet, yes, sir.
They go as high as 28, right? Okay.
And that's just to accommodate all the equipment that we have to do.
Okay, I'm done.
Anybody else?
So
Well, they're
on
probably
page
not.
70, as we're going through the development comments, we've got 1.4, the use of corporate architectural designs associated with chain or franchise building is strongly discouraged. So did we get any movement in the look and feel of it, or did it meet our guidelines right out of the gate?
Did you make them change anything, Anna?
No.
But it met the corridor guidelines as is.
Okay. Where are we in the process? Do we need
We
a
are
motion?
ready for a motion.
I move that we approve it as presented.
Second. With the conditions.
Yes.
With the conditions.
A motion by Tim, a second by Daryl. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right.
What is the typical uptime of your run units?
Sir, I'm sorry, didn't hear. Can you
What
repeat
is your typical uptime of your run units? Is it 90+%? Meaning, are they working constantly, or how often are you under?
as far as going to go maintenance for? I can
That's a
have,
personal question. We've already voted. You won now.
I can have Scott
Are you
speak to
asking
that.
like how often does it have to be shut down and maintained?
How often are you broken down that you're not able to complete it?
Long as I'm gonna shoot you straight out. As long as they take care of the equipment, then they can run for a very long time without problems. Every car wash their function is on the staff. The equipment that we're putting in, state of the art, it's American made, it's made out of Chicago. We've had great success with this throughout the nation. But it's just like any automotive center, any car wash center, the equipment has to be maintained properly. Once we put it in there, we're done with the site. We move on.
Yes.
We do have a service crew that comes out if they choose to contract with us to service the equipment. And basically how that works is when we come put their chemicals in it, we walk the tunnel, we do a full inspection, and we alert the management and the upper. We actually, D. Williams of Smitty's, we actually have personal communication with him on a daily and weekly basis on his car washes. And he gets the same recommendations that the staff gets. And they've been awesome on maintaining and taking care of their car washes.
Thank you. All right, thanks. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's go to public hearing 5C. Request Z 2218 by Michael Linehan with Land Strategies, Inc. to consider a conditional use permit per section 3.205 to allow food sales as permitted use for property located at 206 North Milam Street. I'll entertain a motion to.
We're going to vote here.
All right, motion by Jim, second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I
All
saw
right.
you.
Oh,
I
you're
saw
up
you
there.
hiding back there.
Well, yes, I'm Michael Linehan. I'm with LSI representing Bricks and Bread LLC, and Christy and Ken Satterley sent their regrets. They really wanted to be here. This is a project near and dear to their hearts, and they put a lot of work into it. But their flights were subject to the Austin airport energy failure, so they could not make it here. But wanted to send their regards. So what we were here requesting is a conditional use permit for their accessory uses to the Grand Central Milam project at the old Super S, 206 North Milam Street. That is specifically to a covered stage area and 2 food kiosks in the backyard. There's also some additional program of lawn space that could accommodate, say, yoga classes and things of that nature. This project did get a conditional use permit in September of 2020. Since then, the project has developed much further, and the idea or the design and program of the backyard has come some way. So, in that time, these additional uses came into the project, and that brings us back here to you guys to extend that conditional use permit. I'd be happy to answer any questions in regard to that, or if I need to sit down so that you guys can deliberate, that is.
Sorry. Yeah, we have a public. Is there anyone here who'd like to make some comments? Yes, sir.
It'll cost you.
Since you're the only one here, I'm gonna give you 3.5 minutes.
It's going to be quick. I'm just on a fact-finding mission. They're doing a wonderful job. Go look at the project. Can you see it? Is that it? That's not it. Looks almost like that. Nope.
That's it.
That's it. It is. Okay. Go to the little triangle area right in here.
Huh?
411 West Shrewsbury. It's impacting my property. You put the food trucks there. They're going to have generators. You ever heard generators are running? They're loud. I'm thinking if they're putting a fence in, you are? Okay. Then I don't have an issue. I was just on a fact-finding mission. Okay. I'd like to know what kind of fence.
Y'all can negotiate that right tonight.
That's it.
Do you need
I don't want to hear, but that particular area of the fence is intended to be a wrought iron fence. There are fences on the north and south property lines, or walls rather, that are intended to be masonry walls built to 8 feet, and that is to further mitigate any potential negative impacts of noise to the neighbors. We do will comply with the Fredericksburg noise limitations and time limitations as stated in our narrative. Some of the uses for that backyard would be potential small music performances, movie nights, game watching, things of that nature, but still completely under the time limitations and the noise decibel limitations. additional vegetative screening as well to mitigate any nuisance to potential nuisance to neighbors. And in regards to the comment about generators, these would be running off of permanent electricity, so there would be no generators in that instance.
Let me ask you a question.
We're not,
What
we're
is
still
what?
in public hearing.
I'm
Hold
sorry.
on. Anybody else have any comments? Uh-oh.
I move we go out of public.
Oh, wait a minute.
I know you're all ready to go home.
It's okay. We still have others to go.
I was just trying to understand. He threw in an iron fence that blocks no noise. He said there was going to be what type of stone fence?
Concrete block.
Concrete fence that blocks noise. So but we didn't address where the fencing would be. Did you do that?
Yeah, so north and south, so top and bottom would be TMU, but on that corner would be it's actually.
Well, beautiful down. Well, and people are so clean and they're going to throw all their trash in the receptacle. I know, but none of it's going to get into the ditch. So I'm just concerned how we're going to play. And I mean, this is for always their thing. They don't like to.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Did you get his name, the record?
I did get his address. Harry Pond? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Make a motion, we go to public hearing.
A motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 6C, discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 2218. Garrett, you have any
Yes,
comments?
ma'am. So Michael did a good job of touching on a few of the concerns. So again, this is a CUP that was approved back in September of 2020. The conditions of that original approval are included on page 82 of your packet. If you'll review those, they're primarily related to the uses of the inside of the building. It's multiple tenants. If you refer to number 7, it speaks to this backyard area that's being discussed tonight. Originally, that was contemplated for deliveries and fire lane access, so there really wasn't a use planned at that time. As Michael mentioned, as they continued the development, they see this as kind of a prime area for accessory uses for the tenants. So that's why we're back here tonight with more of an updated CUP request. Just a few things, really the biggest concerns are with impacts to the surrounding neighbors. I did pass out a surrounding use map. It's the colorful one. It kind of shows you what the adjacent properties are currently used for. Again, that's to the best of our ability. These are believed to be the current uses. You'll see there are a large number of STRs. There's commercial uses, some residential, including some homestead, but I would say the majority is some sort of commercial or STR use. So with that being said, staff's primary concern is with the impacts to those adjacent properties. Michael did mention a proposal for a CMU wall and some wrought iron fencing. If you'll look on page 80 of the packet, and I'm sorry to bounce around on you, the rear of the property, in fact, a portion of the rear of the building is within FEMA floodplain. So the area in white, kind of the creek channel, that's a floodway zone. So anything that's done in there, the developer would have to have a flood study done showing it's called a no rise certification. So walls sound great, but walls block water. So that's one of staff's concerns. That's in the condition of the approval, that anything that's going to occur back there within the floodplain area has to meet the city's floodplain ordinance requirements. So,
which is?
Well, so again, anything in the white area, the white hatched area, would have to be supported by a flood study showing a no rise certification that anything they're going to do is not going to impact flood levels or they will have to route it through the full-blown FEMA letter of map change process, which takes time.
Just a question, under the flood rise, you can actually construct as long as it's constructed to that standard, which is wash away, roll away, that kind of stuff, right?
Yes, but then there's concerns about damage to downstream properties. So all that's accounted for in this flood study. The area in kind of the teal color is what's called AE zone. It's still part of the 100-year floodplain. It's a little easier to develop in there, but under the city ordinances, they would still have to prove that they're not adversely impacting any surrounding or downstream properties. So it's just a couple additional steps. I'm not saying it's not doable, but those are some important conditions, because as you try to add mitigation efforts, we have to keep in mind the floodplain impacts.
Well,
So
you have breakaway fencing? I mean, like you have the breakaway bridge out at the park?
yes, sir. There's things that can be done. I mean, they've already had to address that with the building itself. They flood-proofed the building.
Okay.
So they brought it up to the current standard. They were very good to work with on that. So it's just some additional steps that need to be taken. The other thing, now that we have the amended zoning ordinance, which speaks to the quiet hours in residential areas, I know this is a C1 zone property, but because there are some residential use, what we've proposed is that none of the outdoor uses can extend beyond those residential quiet hours, which are 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that's part of staff's recommendation for approval.
Seems like I remember we incorporated operational hours.
There are, if you go back to page 82, the current hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, and 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. We're not proposing to change that for inside the building, but the outside uses, we're recommending that they comply with the residential quiet hours.
Which is less.
Yes, sir. More restrictive.
And that includes any kind of amplified music. So if they're having an outdoor movie, is it only going to be for people who read lips at 10 o'clock?
Well, I assume your showing times change because of that. I guess that is one point of clarification right now under those hours. It says 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So again,
They can't show Doctors of Vaudeville.
the quiet hours
start at 3 o'clock.
There's some overlap there where the residential quiet hours are 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. So you might want to amend that condition if you want them to start no earlier than 8 a.m. Which I assume they wouldn't really have any proposed uses back there. But
Well, yoga at 7 o'clock in the morning is,
it's true.
and I know those yoga people, they're just really loud.
So are there
I missed that.
any noise mitigation efforts that can be made that don't put in the flood?
There's some landscaping, and there's mitigation efforts that can be made in the floodplain itself. Regrading, you'll remove volume and add volume, kind of a give and take. Again, that all has to be supported by an engineering study.
Building one, so you're saying they get a food truck.
So that, and Michael maybe will touch on this. I believe this is a kind of a permanent pad, and then the actual vendors it's a kiosk, and so the vendors would change. So you may have one there for a month. Again, everything would have to be developed to the floodplain ordinance standards.
Yes, so it is a permanent structure. The original intent of the original CUP was to do food trucks, but it is in the historic district, so food trucks are not allowed in that district. So we've created these permanent structures that would be for temporary food vendors, kind of startup food vendors or things of that nature that would be on a rotating schedule. And then as far as noise mitigation, most of the intent would be with landscaping and vegetation as to not increase any adverse effects on the floodplain.
there will have to be some mitigation efforts undertaken to address that.
So I apologize for my misunderstanding, but you have there as a wrought iron. I'm gonna assume that that has 4 to 6 inch slats on it, or
Correct.
it's not solid. But it
Correct.
cannot be solid, just flush. But in light of the fact that it's not solid, their house is going to be impacted negatively.
Which is where the vegetation is where we would be trying to mitigate as much as we can with vegetation. So it is definitely a balance between the floodplain mitigation and the noise mitigation and the uses. So we're trying to design to the best of our ability to mitigate for that.
So if they do the flood study, and the flood study says they can't do the concrete wall structure to deflect sound in the opposite direction, what happens? And we've already approved.
Well, everything's I mean, you can condition on that. If you're comfortable with staff reviewing it, you can do so. You know, if they show that the CMU wall doesn't work, then we would definitely look at, you know, wrought iron fencing and landscaping to try to address that. Or you could require that it comes back before the board.
I think I prefer that it comes back. Just because there's so many moving parts here, and if the flood study says you can't do what you're proposing, we really want to be able to see now
What's the
flood
option?
study, what's potential
What's the
impact on
new?
adjacent properties before we do it
What's the new?
to the change.
And really, staff's biggest concern, we met with the applicant, the development team. Our biggest concern was potentially moving the stage if they find, hey, we can't build the stage here because of the floodway zone, that you don't move it back and turn it where it now faces more residential uses. So I think it's as currently laid out, you know, it works as best as it can. Again, it's the responsibility of the developer to prove that it meets the the floodplain requirements.
I like all of your recommendations, except I would add the one that if the flood study does not allow the project as currently designed, that it would come back to planning and zoning for change.
And then the only other recommendation I would consider is it require that Michael provides his cell phone number to Pounds in case there is a sound issue. He can handle it like a good neighbor.
Well, and I will say, as currently proposed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the CMU wall does stay out of the floodway zone.
Correct.
Okay, so that makes it simpler. Their civil engineer will still have to prove that there's a no-rise certification.
Correct. And the civil engineer is aware of this and is in standby to do that study. Just wanted to get the uses recommended for approval before the developers spent that cost on doing that floodplain development study.
Sure.
So us approving it, subject to coming back to us if you have to change it, is that acceptable?
That I think adds a bit of time and challenge to the development. And I would say that on behalf of the developer, they would not want to do that. What we could say is, I don't know if there's a way to write that into there that we mitigate noise to the best of our ability within the floodplain, because that really is the intent. We want to be good neighbors. And absolutely give you my card and you can call me anytime. But I know that the developer is really wanting to do outreach and to make sure that all the nearby neighbors are happy.
So, like, what about it? We do, give staff review it.
So if they replace that concrete wall with vegetation, the neighbors start howling. Who are they?
Well, there's only one neighbor. He has Michael's number now.
He's the neighbor to the north. There's all the other neighbors.
All the other neighbors.
I do know that the developer has done.
When this project first came to us, we didn't have 4 people.
Yes, yes. I mean, and there were no uses in the back when we approved that, and we had all those people.
And actually, we were kind of sold that they were not.
So,
Yeah, I know that the developer has done a considerable amount of outreach and does have some letters of support for the project from adjacent landowners. And to my knowledge, those neighbors on the south side of the development are in favor.
Well, one thing that we also have to take into consideration is when we look at this map that says all these are STRs.
Yeah.
Next year, these owners could say, there's no money in STRs. I'm gonna give up my STR permit and we're going back to, I'm gonna either sell it. Yeah. I'm gonna get out of the STR business and it becomes a residential use. So I think
They're already there. These guys will already be there.
Right.
And that's on the buyer.
Exactly. I mean, that's a
well, that's why I'm saying that now we need to be thinking about if would we be looking at this project any differently if these were all R1 homes, single family homes occupied year round than we are with them looking at STR. That's my point.
well, the fact that all the properties on the south side of this are C1 commercial.
Right.
So that is a mitigating factor for a lot of this. It's really protecting the ones to the west,
in the north,
to the west and the north that are still classified as residential. Because the ones to the south are all commercial, so there's no buffer required for commercial component.
There's still people living there.
I know, but
some,
it's zoned, but what I'm saying, it's already zoned commercial. So
right.
having staff review the part that's facing commercial, I'd be more, if it was all commercial around it, I'd be more comfortable saying staff, just go ahead and look at it, whatever you come up with, it's fine. It's the ones to the west
in the north
and the ones to the north that are still residential, classified as residential, that I'd be concerned about. That if we swap out concrete for landscape material, abutting residential, that's not nearly the sound buffer as a wing wall.
Right.
So.
Excuse me, did you say you were 211 or 411, sir?
I'm in 411.
Okay, thank you.
And it's an SDR that I use a lot.
I don't mean to drag this out, but
No, I'm kind of on board with you. I have a real challenge with anything where the noise is going to directly and negatively impact cross property, private property rights. Extending the noise to someone else's private property rights is something
I understand that, and that's adhering to the time and decibel limitations throughout the site is one of the reasons that we wanted to show that, yes, there will be people in this backyard using it as amenity space. It is an accessory use to the main area, so not a private yard you would have to come through the development, but it's meant to be a community space that is closed down during evening hours and hours of nuisance. And again, our team is doing architecture and landscape architecture, and we're going to be doing the best we can to mitigate any negative noises. Again, to Garrett's point, we do have to do the floodplain development studies. So our intent is to do the CMU wall to mitigate that. If it proves that that's not the case, we will do layers of shrubs and wrought iron fence so that there's still that barrier. And vegetation does do a pretty good job if you do stack it and layer it on noise mitigation.
The cutoff time is 10.
Right, and if they adhere to the noise ordinance.
yeah, if they adhere to the recommended operating hours, then they'll be shut down by the time.
Right.
Exactly. The operating hours.
With lip syncing or lip reading on movies after 10 o'clock.
We beat this one to death. Y'all ready?
Yep. Beat it to death. Thank you very much for your patience.
I'll make a motion we approve with all the staff recommendations on the bottom. Additions to the original CUP. The primary one is the floodplain.
And the no track program.
All staff
it's on page 82, is that correct?
That's it.
Thank you.
76.
76 is the current staff recommendation. 82 is the previous CUP conditions.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
And that, the no programming between 10 p.m. and 7, that's 7
That's
days
the
a week, right?
residential. And that's outdoor. You did say that's outdoor, right? Backyard area.
Yes, that's for the backyard area only.
Because we
The
have a
other
separate one for
hours.
indoors.
Yes,
At separate times.
Yeah.
Motion by Jim.
Second.
Everybody.
We have discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Goes to city council on the 19th.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to action item number 6D. Request P 2230 by Dale Seltmeyer Surveying, lot 165 subdivision, unit number 2 for property.
Miss Janice, my apologies. Will you please turn on your mic?
Oh, hi there. We're going to go to action item number 6D, request 2230 by Dale Saltemeyer with Saltemeyer Surveying to consider a replat of lot 165 in the Crabapple Grove subdivision, unit number 2 for property located at 224 Lower Crabapple. And you're not Mr. Saltemeyer.
I'm his grandson. This is about as close as you're going to get.
Very good.
Is your last name Soldemar?
It is Jennings.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
But it's Saltmeyer for tonight.
We'll call it that.
Okay.
Alrighty. My name is Hugh Jennings with Saltmeyer Surveying. I'm a surveyor in training right now underneath Dale Saltmeyer. Today I come with a replat for a 1.37 acre tract of land off of Lower Crabapple Road. It'll be lot 165. And we are going to be dividing it into 3 separate parts, roughly about 0.4 acres apiece. From Mr. Jordan Meyer is the landowner.
It has a house on it, doesn't it?
Yes, it has a residence and 2 sheds.
I asked the same question. One of the lots has
so the
got a
house
house
is
on it.
Okay. Let me go.
All right. Shelby, you have any other comments on it?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you.
This location is zoned R1 single family residential and requires a minimum lot size of 7,500 square feet with a minimum lot frontage of 70 feet. Staff has reviewed the plat as presented and it meets all necessary requirements. We do have a few conditions, including the standard park dedication of $500 per lot, which would result in $1,000 payable prior to the recordation of the plat, as well as water and sewer tap fees of $2,525 per set. That would also apply per new lot. It's my understanding they intend to keep the residence as is on lot 165A, and staff recommends approval with those conditions.
What are the hash marks?
Yeah, what's the hash marks? Back corner.
In the back corner there, that is the drainage easement. And then on the next lot over, you can see we have the 10-foot wide utility easement as well.
And this is currently city limits?
Yes, sir.
Part of Crabapple Grove, isn't it?
It's not part of it. It's always been separate.
Okay.
They surround.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Move you approve it as presented with the conditions as presented.
Second.
Motion by Tim, a second by Daryl. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Tell Dale you did good.
Thank you.
All right.
Tell him it was easy.
Tell him you had to wait 2 hours.
Yeah.
And fight the crowd.
All right, let's go to action item number 6E, request P 2231 by Josh Lemons with searchers surveying to consider replat of lot 10 of the Bergdorf addition for property located at 211 West Hackberry. Mr. Lemons. How are you?
That's
Good to
doing
hear.
doing pretty good. We're getting close to the end, and this one should be pretty straightforward. So, no, I was just listening, seeing if they're going to throw fireworks. I stay pretty close to the exit just in case.
Smart man.
So this is a pretty straightforward little division. I've done a number of them for the same client. We've worked with staff to make sure everything is satisfactory. The biggest challenge on this one was actually the block. There were corners that were off by over 4 feet on the block corner. And so we did a whole lot of work, but we finally got the block resolved. This allows for the required 7,500 square foot, the minimum width of 70 feet, which is the standard for R1. I did speak to the neighbor to the east, and they are all good with everything we're doing there. I actually worked for them one summer back in 08. So anyway, I think everything looks good. Let me know if y'all have any comments or questions.
All right. Shelby, you have any comments?
Very few. Thank you, Josh. As Josh mentioned, this property is also zoned R1 single family residential and has the same requirements for minimum lot size and lot frontage. It's pretty standard. It's a corner lot. So aside from a standard site visibility easement, which is required there on the corner of North Orange Street as well as West Hack and the intersection of North Orange Street and West Hackberry Street, staff recommends approval with the conditions of park dedication as well as the water and sewer tap fees. I do think it's worth noting because I know I had received some protest letters. There's a total of 5 from neighbors within the 200-foot notification area that had some concerns regarding the subdivision of the property. I did speak personally with one of the neighbors, and their concern was that the property fronting, the existing residence that fronts on West Hackberry is a licensed permitted short-term rental unit and has been for a number of years. That use does not extend to the newly created lot. If it would be subdivided, it would need to be in compliance with the 2022 short-term rental ordinance, which based on a review, it wouldn't comply for a conditional use permit for an SDR unoccupied.
Right. Anybody have questions or comments? Are you ready for a motion?
Make a motion to approve the staff recommendation if it's really only included the $500 parkland dedication, doesn't know where that goes.
All right. Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cindy. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Stay right there. Action item number 6F. Request P 2232 by Josh Lemons with searchers survey to consider replat of lot 1 AR and lot 2 BR of the Eckert subdivision for property located at 738 Bramer Lane.
All right, so this one is a commercial lot that has 2 very different uses. The prior owner had built out some storage buildings on the northern part of the lot, and then there's the old taxidermy office on the southern part of the lot. And the current owner is proposing to split this into 2 separate lots to better serve the needs of the property and to split out those uses instead of having 2 different uses on one lot. And so what we got here is the division line shown in red on the north side of the office building is currently being used as taxidermy. We've got a shared driveway that runs along that boundary line. The way the buildings were laid out did not very well plan for ingress and egress through and between the storage buildings, so to better make a loop driveway, so to speak, it would be easier to have a shared access for both lots there at that existing driveway. There is an existing driveway on the northern side for the storage buildings, and the other potential driveway that was shown on Bramer Lane would not be in existence. They just asked me to try to throw other possible driveways in, and those don't quite conform to the ordinance specifications. So anyway, that is the extent of that. We do have a utility easement on the backside in order to service the utilities for the storage buildings. There are some lights in a couple of the buildings, and there's a utility pole on the backside. There would eventually be a separate service put in for that lot 1AR. Just let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Shelby, do you have any comment?
Josh did an excellent summary. It's pretty standard. The property is zone C2. It meets the minimum requirements for the size of the parcel as well as the lot frontage, and staff recommends approval conditioned upon park dedication fees.
All right. Thank you. Comments or questions from anyone?
Make a motion to approve P2232 with the parkland dedication fees.
All right. Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Tom. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you.
All
You can
right.
go home now.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate y'all's service and staying up late with all of us, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Josh.
Thank you, Josh. All right. Let's go to the minutes. Anybody had a chance to review those minutes?
Let's see.
Since Emily's not here, we don't have to worry about
Okay.
spelling.
Holly, let's
Page 5.
She's
Did you see
listening.
something?
I found something on page 5. Request Z-2216. Tom Musselman made a motion to open the public hearing. So we opened this public hearing twice. Should be a motion to close the public hearing. Okay, nice. That was it.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve them as amended.
I'll make a motion, we approve them after Mr. Musselman redlined them.
Thank you.
Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to item number 8, discussion items and possible action. 8A, update on P&Z roles and responsibility training session.
All right, so real quickly, we finally had the training with the city council yesterday morning. So council is looking at a few changes to their regular meeting times. I don't think it will impact P&Z's meeting schedule, but that's one thing we might discuss during this training session. I wanted to talk to the board about what times y'all would be most available for that type of training. I think one thing we've talked about is kind of a brown bag lunch to bring y'all in. I think the plan is to have Daniel and Shelley, the city secretary, kind of give y'all some guidance for the P&Z board. Also talk to the ZBA members and HRB as well. So I didn't know, we could either look at having it as a special call joint meeting prior to a regular P&Z meeting, maybe starting at like 4:00 some afternoon. Or if you like the idea of the lunch meeting better. So I'd just like to get a little input if I could.
How long do you anticipate that workshop will last?
Probably no more than an hour. I mean, honestly, the training session didn't take that long. There were a few questions, but I think it is important to talk to the board and just go over your true responsibilities. And we can break it up where if you need to leave, maybe we go over the P&Z first and then do the other boards later on.
You're gonna try to do all the boards the same day?
Yes, sir. We'd like to do it as one session.
A giant meeting.
Yep. Because a lot of it applies to each board, and then there will be some specifics for each individual board.
Sounds more like lunch.
Well, 20% of us is retired, so lunch meeting sounds
Yeah.
like a perfect time. Anybody's
Okay.
Well, I'm
So at a staff level, let us get through the budget process. We're getting closer. So I may send out an email and just look at sometime later this month or early in October, if that works. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you for putting it together. 8B, comprehensive plan update. And you can give us that.
Yes, so staff had our kickoff meeting with Happen Associates last week and set out, our goals for the coming month. And so the first order of business will be creating our advisory committee. There'll be members from planning and we're looking at 2 members of planning and zoning for that committee. If we can get that committee set up in time, they're wanting to have the initial in-person meeting with those committees on September 26th. So that's the biggest thing. And then setting the schedule will obviously follow after that. They're also looking at some dates to come, probably in late October, November, for standing events that the city has so they can interact with citizens. So we're looking at 3 different dates for existing events that they can tie into. So the big thing will be the advisory committee and then setting up our steering or focus groups. But initially they'll be with a meeting with the advisory committee and planning and zoning and city council.
You mentioned advisory committee, possibly 2 from P&Z. What are the other inputs? Who are the other inputs?
City council, a large property owner, major employer, looking at the hospital for that, Gillespie County Commissioners Court representative, school district, community group and organizations such as the ministerial committee, real estate board of realtors, a developer and housing builder or house builder, and a general residential group, and hospitality industry and historian and parks department.
Well, and that's the thing. I think there will be numerous people that represent multiple facets. I think 15 kind of what they're looking at, give or take.
So as far as the representatives from this group, as y'all heard at the last meeting, Jim expressed interest, and I also, Ollie expressed interest after the meeting. And since they have opened us up 2 spots, unless y'all have any other persons of interest or any objections, I would recommend that we ask Jim and Ollie to serve on behalf of.
These meetings
Do
will
we
be
need a
open.
motion for that? Or
What? Do we need a motion?
I don't think it matters either way.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to make it official, you could make a motion, but it's,
I think I'll simply points over time.
it's notice for action if you want to take action.
The hope would be that y'all are all part of this process, and we'll provide regular updates. We'll try to get the consultant out to give regular updates because y'all are a very important piece of that process.
Will these be public meetings?
No.
But there will be public
There will be
sessions
plenty of public
public
meetings,
sessions.
just not the advisory committee.
You 2 have been anointed. So
All right.
I had brought up the last meeting, and I actually submitted the form to Shelby about us putting on our agenda about the possibility of moving gas pumps from 3 to 6. And I was asked by the city manager and also by a couple of council people about Watson. To wait and hold on to it until we got into the mayor. Wait until we got into the comprehensive plan to discuss it.
And since that time, gasoline's gone down to $3.19.
Yeah.
I want you to know that I researched that from here all the way to Angel Fire and all through Texas, all the way back. I looked at every town and what their prices were and how many tanks they had, and there was no correlation. None. I did not write it down, but in my mind, I looked and there's no correlation between the number of tanks.
I think 289 for Christie yesterday. Not yesterday, Sunday.
That's because they're right by the tanks.
That's right about the factory.
Right by the factories, by the refineries. Okay. All right. I think we've covered everything.
Ready for a motion to
I am.
I'll make that motion, madam.
Motion by Jim. Do I have a second? And second by Polly. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'm worried about it.
Motion carries.
Oh, second question. Thank you.